Hello there, how are you? Are you okay? Jolly good. Now, up front is my video podcast where I speak to somebody who I love, honour and cherish about something that we both got in common, something close to our hearts. So, all you have to do is sit down, make yourself comfy and enjoy the programme. But who's on the programme this week?
Hi, my name's Joe King. I live in the north of England. I'm 14 years old. I live with my boyfriend, 2 cats, one called Bumble, one called Big Pussy, and a grey whippet called Lloyd. I held the title of Mr. Leather UK 2015, Mr. Leather Europe 2016, and I was a second runner-up of IML 2017.
Joe King.
Hi everyone.
Hello, Chucky.
Hello, darling.
Otherwise known as my showbiz husband. So we've got loads of cards here with questions on which are going to sort of lead us through up front. And who knows what we might talk about. But the thing about this first one is because it's the first one, I'll have lots to say as well.
Well, you always do, darling.
It's the It's always like me, that, isn't it? Right, so we're just going to go through. So we'll pick the first one up, and it is, why did you have an HIV test?
Why did I have an HIV test? Well, I was getting really, really, really ill, and I knew at the back of my mind I probably was positive because I'd just been in a really difficult relationship with some horrendous person, and I didn't want to go back and revisit that situation, so I just didn't want to face up to it, so I just kind of kept pushing it out of my mind for a very, very, very long time until suddenly I started getting really ill, and I got really, kind of lost loads of weight and got really thin, struggled in the gym, was getting tonsillitis all the time. I knew there was something fundamentally wrong, and I knew at the back of my mind what it was. And it wasn't until my GP pushed me into it by saying, you've either got HIV or liver cancer. You need to go for a test tomorrow. That was the kind of thing that forced me into it, because either option, suddenly HIV didn't seem like the worst option. So that's why I went. And I know I should have gone sooner, and I should have gone straight away. At the end of the relationship, because he was HIV positive and not on any medication, so his viral load would have been absolutely through the roof.
But were you educated at that point? I mean, you're speaking from a very educative position now, aren't you, about viral loads? But were you aware of all that?
Well, I was, because my boyfriend at the time wouldn't go and get treatment or go and get it seen to, and I used to really desperately worry about him. And I, he was the first person I really knew sort of intimately who had HIV. So I used to really, really worry about him. So I made it my business to find out about it.
Right.
Even though it was a hideous situation and it was an abusive nightmare. When you're in that situation, it's just difficult to sort of do anything other than be kind of, empathetic towards someone, and so I made it my business to find out, and but then because my experience in the relationship was so horrific and so traumatizing, I just wouldn't go back and revisit it until obviously my body decided to kind of ring the alarm bells.
Got to do something.
Yeah, so. Exactly. So so that for me it was kind of, and it's quite, I kind of regret it now, because I've come through the other side of it and understand it more, but at the time it was just this hideously big, scary thing that I knew I had to face up to sooner than later, and I just kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. So that was my tale. What about you?
It's quite a familiar story, that, isn't it, of people putting it off, even just having a test, because they think, I certainly thought, because I went through similar things, like I felt ill and what have you. And I think it's that if I don't have the test, I'm not HIV positive, isn't it? It's just like, it's burying your head in the sand, and you look back on it and you think, oh God, that was so totally ridiculous. But my sort of, why I had an HIV test wasn't actually that that different to yours. I'd been ill for about a year, but that was like, I had like a tonsillitis. My throat was like glass in it, but it went. It kept coming back, and then it would come again. Kept going to see the doctor every so often, and the question they always asked, because I was in a practice with multiple doctors, so I'd see different ones, was, do you know your HIV status? And I'd go, well, no, I have not had a test for quite a while. And they just kind of leave it at that. And things sort of happened. I was feeling ill. I remember my birthday in May. I went for a picnic with friends in the countryside, and I just got out of breath. I just couldn't do it. I had to keep sitting down all the time.
Yeah, that was exactly like that for me. I mean, I used to go to the gym and do like run 10k in the morning before work. And it got to the point where I'd get on the treadmill and I'd kind of start it up and I'd be going,
Straight away.
Yeah. And I just chalked it up to kind of stress at work and being run down and blah, blah,
You
blah.
do. You make excuses, don't you?
Yeah.
You become your own doctor, I think. But yes, and I burst into tears at that point. I was just going, I can't be, it can't be an age thing, this. It can't be like, I'm 21 and a bit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, that was the May. A few more times it happened with the doctors, and eventually I just said, there seems to be an elephant in the room here, because they keep asking the same question. And the doctor said, well, we can help make the elephant go away. And I thought, okay.
Yeah.
And it is that, is it? It's just like, once I say okay here and it goes down, there's no going back on it.
Yeah.
And I had the test on the Monday. This was at the end of August, I remember. And they rang me on the Thursday. And this is the day before Manchester Pride. And they rang up and said, we've got to tell you you're HIV positive. Would you like to come into the surgery? There's no one around at the moment. Would you like to bring a friend with you? And I went, yes. And I went in. And I always describe it as my head was like a tumble dryer with a couple of duvets in it. My head was just like, I can hear all this, but it's all... And it turned out it actually wasn't bronchitis or that, it was pneumonia.
Yeah.
Because they asked me to go into the hospital the following week, and they did an X-ray. Well, I had to sort of do that's sort of, it's not an exercise, it's a test thing. You lie on your back and you have to pedal this invisible cycle with your legs in the air. And you had to do it for 2 minutes while they measured your oxygen levels, and I could only do it for about 30 seconds. I'm going, I'm out of breath now. And she went, what?
Yeah.
She said, I just need to get somebody. And they sent me through for an X-ray, and it came back I had pneumonia. But you look back on it, don't you? And for me, and I think from that point on, my life changed for the better. And things are amazing. The way we looked after.
Well, that's the thing, though. I mean, I think I actually really genuinely thought I was going quite nuts in some respects because, I could tell my body was falling apart. I could tell, and I was getting more and more ill, more and more regularly.
Do you think, though, that you thought, well, that's just I'm getting older, so...
Yeah, I don't know really what I really thought, to be honest. I think because I was just like, I was like, tonsillitis again, and just being really run down. And actually I had a very similar thing with your this experience you had with your GP, I had with mine, which was when I go to my GP, it's a different one every time. And I just happened to go this one time about tonsillitis. And it was so bad at this particular point, I couldn't actually swallow, and my throat was closed up so tight, I was struggling to breathe. And so they did some blood tests, and they came back really, really quickly. And he was the one who said to me, with your age group and your sexuality, the likelihood is it's either HIV or it's liver cancer because of the levels in my blood of white blood cells and everything else. It could have been one or the other. And that for me was a real kind of like, wow.
Never heard of it being like, and liver cancer.
It could be one or the other, And actually we can't do a test we can do a test at the surgery. It's be 2 weeks away. But if you go down to the sexual health clinic, they can do it for you today or tomorrow. So I went down in the morning, and they took me straight in, and they were so great and so brilliant. I mean, I absolutely, completely adore them lot down there. They're so great. And they did the test. They kind of took me through this kind of, you know, bit of a patter they have, you know, kind of explaining to you, you know, what to expect. And it was kind of almost like a pregnancy test. I don't know if yours was like that. It's like you kind of take a blood sample, and then they put it on this like little kind of swab, and then 2 lines appear in a little window.
Oh, I never got to see what they were doing.
Yeah, it's like I'm waiting for the rocking horse and the lemon to come up, you know. But so it's like half an hour for it to develop.
Right.
So I'm sat there in the waiting room, just thinking, oh no, you know, what is this going to be? Actually hoping it was going to be HIV, because, you know, the prospect of facing grueling chemo wasn't particularly appealing.
Well,
you know,
yeah,
or what that entailed, you know, because I actually had no idea what liver cancer was about, or how, you know, what it would do to you. Anyway, so I went in and sat and waited for the half an hour to come. He finally came back to pick me up. Go back into the room, gets the test out of the cupboard where we'd securely locked it, and only one line had developed in the thing. And he went, "This is really unusual. It doesn't usually happen like this, but it's likely, you know, it is likely you've got HIV, but we can't be 100% sure."
You have to do it all over again.
So we have to do a proper test. It's going to take 2 weeks, 10 days to 2 weeks to come back. So I had like this whole period of kind of thinking, is it, isn't it, am I, aren't I, da-da-da-da-da. But I chose to acknowledge what it was and realise that's probably what it was, you know. And just like you, my life totally changed from that point forward.
Okay, question number 2, and it's, how did your family or friends react to your diagnosis?
Well, I'd only told my partner and my best friend Rachel that I was going for a test.
Oh, so you were going for a
None
HIV
of my family
test,
knew.
so.
None of my family knew. I didn't tell any of my family. My family, you know, have enough on the plate without having to deal with me as well. So I just thought, I'm just not going to worry anybody with any of this. I'm just going to just crack on and just, you know, deal with it. And you know, so Rachel and James were the only people that knew about it. And so when I came out of the test, you know, they were desperately waiting for me to tell them what.
Did they want to sort of come with you? Did
They
offer
did,
that?
but I didn't want them to. I wanted to be there by myself. It's just the way that I deal with things. You know, I like to deal with things by myself.
Right.
I'm kind of terrible for that, really. I'm quite insular in a lot of ways. And so...
Still love you, then.
So so when I came out, I rang them up, and I just remember just saying, you know, I've got HIV. And they were kind of, you know, really cute and really kind, but also kind of typically Yorkshire and like, well, you know, right, well, just get on with it now then. We'll just, you know, we understand what's going on. And, you know, and I was kind of shell-shocked. But to be honest, I remember more than anything else swinging between really inappropriate gallows humour and back to kind of just feeling absolutely horrified, and it drawing up all of this kind of experience I'd had with this hideous relationship.
Oh, right. Sort of like a blame feel, was
it was because it took a lot for me to get away from him. And it left me with a lot of scars and left me with a lot of... I had to climb a long way back up after escaping him. And to suddenly have this reminder living inside my body of him day in, day out was actually a very, 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 very difficult thing for me to come to terms with.
It's funny you actually mentioned about that, because you knew who you got the... Well, you're pretty sure you were.
Well, yeah, it definitely was.
Right.
Definitely was.
See, yeah. I didn't. Yeah. I didn't know. And it's a question that does pop up every so often. People say, Do you know who gave you HIV?
Do you know, this is a really interesting thing, I think there's a real what's the word? There's a real thing around HIV where it's kind of, have you got good it? Did you get a good infection or bad? Have you been naughty or have you been? Do you know what I mean? It's like if you've, I don't know, if you've been attacked somehow, you're more. I don't know. There's a stigma around the method by which you have contracted HIV. I really find that quite a lot. People say, "Well, how did you get it?" And it's kind of almost a bit like a. It's almost like a kind of. Where does the fault lie?
Right.
Kind of thing. Have you done it to yourself, or was it out of your control?
Or point a finger at, sort of thing.
And actually, the fact that you've got HIV is the point. It doesn't actually matter how you got it and where you got it from. It is just the fact you have it, and actually, whether or not you were sexually attacked, or whether you've just kind of like a party, or whatever it is, whatever method you got it, that is the point. You are HIV positive. It doesn't matter how you got it.
It is. I mean,
and I can't stand that judginess. That is one thing that really, really annoys me.
It's weird that the question comes up, because for me it's always, well, no, and sometimes they'll say, do you want to know? And I went, well, no. What does that do? What does that accomplish? It doesn't help anything. It doesn't make you go, oh right, well in that case, sort of thing. So yeah, it is a kind of a strange question, and I mean, dare say we'll come to that as we go through, this chat about the strange questions you get asked occasionally. But sometimes I think that some of them are, that people want to be more aware, or it could be that they themselves are about to have a test and they're sort of prepping themselves in a way.
I think that's fine. I think there's a difference between sharing information and sharing your experience to somebody just kind of wanting salacious details and trying to put a judgment on you. And you can tell when you're talking to someone whether or not that's what they're after, or whether they're genuinely interested.
Yes, there is that. Certainly my experience with my family and friends was, I had, a couple of friends who knew I was going for the test. My best friend, Philip, I kind of, it's difficult to remember sometimes, because the whole time your mind goes quite foggy, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
I suppose it's a bit of a shock. It's that shock.
It is a shock.
Thing.
It is a real shock.
But he was there, and he said, "Do you want me to come with you?" When I found out the doctor said, "Do you want to come in?" I went, "Yes, I do." So he did come with me. My other friend wasn't too close by, and I remember actually sending him a text. And I thought, how do you do this? It's just like, oh yes, I am HIV positive, and a text sounds a little bit, I don't know, it wasn't right for sitting for me. And all I did was I text him the plus symbol, and I knew he'd get it, and that to me, it was just like, I didn't want to over emphasize it in a way, sort of thing. That was for me. That was how I dealt with it, and I know other people did with it. As sort of my family, my mother was quite elderly anyway, and I made the decision I wasn't going to tell her, because one, she really wouldn't know what it was, even if you tried to explain it to her, and it wouldn't. I don't know. It would worry her, and even talking to her about it wouldn't stop that worry. And I thought, okay, right, well, there's no real point in my mum knowing. My sister burst into tears and threw her arms around me. We were in a cafe in Stockport at the time. And I remember just giving her a hug and said, I am going to be okay, I am in really, really good hands. And she said, I know, I just give my brother, I don't worry about you, sort of thing. The rest of my family, I mean, I've been HIV positive for, I think it's about 5 or 6 years now.
Since your diagnosis, you mean?
Yes, since I knew about it. And one of my nieces actually sent me a Facebook message only a couple of weeks ago. And certainly as Bang Bang on Facebook and everything, I'm always very, very out about, my status. And my niece had obviously read more about it and what have you. And she sent me a lovely message just saying, it's none of my business, I know, but, you know, I happened to see that, you know, mentioned you were HIV positive, and I just wanted, I know you're surrounded by lovely friends in Manchester. I just want you to know that I am here at any time that, you know, want to hug, even if maybe it's virtual. I'm here for you. I'm very proud of you. You know, the good, you know, this, and he was thinking, oh,
Yeah.
God, I love you.
Yeah.
And I went back saying, the reason I didn't tell you up front was that I don't feel there's a need to do that.
Yeah.
Because
it's part of your identity, but it's not your identity.
it's not my identity.
Exactly.
It's not that I have to go around saying, you know, hello, I'm such and such. And
I had a big bell
such.
around your neck.
Yeah, or about to say, you know, I've got a bad cold today.
Yeah,
sort
exactly.
Of thing.
You know,
it's just like, no. And I think also this fits in with my stance on HIV stigma. And that is, you know, level playing field to normalise, you know, being HIV positive. For me, means I don't go around having to tell everybody in a way that is like that, you know, the bell of thing. But I'll stand on the stage and I'll talk about being HIV. But then everybody's sort of, it's not to say, by the way, I'm HIV. It's just my experiences with HIV.
Yeah. I mean, I did the same when I was first diagnosed. I kept the knowledge to my very closest friends, just because I was dealing with it myself and coming to terms with it. And like I said before, it was mixed up with a lot of other emotions, and I needed to unpick my way through it. In fact, I got some free counselling through the Terence Higgins Trust. And they really, really helped me, you know. They really helped me pick apart all the different things I was experiencing. So there was the whole coming to terms with having HIV, but then also dealing with the stuff I've not really dealt with this, you know, calamitous relationship. So it was a real sort of mixture of stuff I was sort of dealing with. So I kept it really quiet for quite a long time, and then started getting back into the scene, and eventually won Mr. Leather UK. And at that point, I realised, you know, I've now got an opportunity to help normalise living with HIV. And so I took the decision at that point to tell my family and tell everybody, and to be completely public about it and be completely open about it, because, you know, without actually knowing about it, a lot of the guys on the scene who were HIV and really open about it really helped me come to terms with it, because I saw them living their lives, being completely fine, taking responsibility for themselves and others, taking responsibility for their behaviour, you know, and having a perfectly happy, loving, normal life. And I thought, I actually need to do the same. And I've got an opportunity now to use my voice, and I'm not going to hide away from it, because I'm not ashamed.
Nothing to be ashamed of.
Exactly. You know, exactly. And I think it's really important we do talk about it, and I think it's really important that people do feel able to be open, if they choose to be, about having HIV.
Yeah, it's personal choice.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And that's why we're doing this programme as well.
Right, I'm doing this one.
Oh, okay.
Right, okay. What has changed in your life?
What's changed in my life? Oh, wow. Gosh, loads of things. It's a weird question, that, isn't it? Because you think, well, would my life kind of had these things in it anyway? Obviously not dealing with being HIV positive, but the fact that, you know, would have I gone, like us two, we go on stage, grab microphones and talk about it and do this sort of thing.
Amongst other things.
Amongst other things, yeah. But my life has changed. Well, yeah, I mean, certainly my life changed because I did spend, and you must have done the same, I spent quite a time at the beginning, 6 months, my viral load was coming down. You know, you are poorly. My viral load was about 133,000, which a few people had said, I'm surprised you weren't actually in hospital rather than walking around.
Mine was 110,000.
Yeah. See, something else we've got in common. Nearly there with the viral loads. But mine took a while. Did take a while to come down, and but I never got ill. I never got the throat again after that.
No, I was quite ill for quite a long time still, and also the meds really didn't agree with me at all.
In what way? Because I think this happens a lot, doesn't it? They put you on different drugs whenever one doesn't quite work.
Yeah, it was Truvada, actually, they put me on.
Oh, right. The one they use
for PrEP.
PrEP, yeah.
And it absolutely, completely wrecked my sleep. It made my... I mean, people say this quite a lot, actually. It makes your dreams quite crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, if I just add that, interrupt your flow.
No, it's fine.
It does. I remember
does.
mine were like Dali paintings.
Oh, God.
Like everything was like really vivid colours. And I saw my consultant and he says, "How's it going?" I went, "Yeah, these really vivid colours. It's amazing." And there's black lines and there's like puffs of smoke and everything. And he went, "We need to change your drugs." I went, No, I really enjoyed it.
It's like the 90s all over again.
Yes. I mean, he says no. He says, because if you can remember and you're dreaming, you're not actually getting quality sleep. And that's what I want you to have. Okay.
Well, that was it for me because my sleep was so disrupted. And also I suffer with really severe depression. And one of the things I need to make sure I do to keep it at bay is exercise a lot and get proper sleep. So what happened was Truvada was doing its thing and working, but my quality of life was just deteriorating further and further and further because my sleep was so disrupted, and I just wasn't able to cope. And you know when you're really tired and you kind of get really emotional and like really clumsy and you just can't make decisions and the whole world seems to like creep in.
And the whole world's against you.
Yeah, exactly.
Even just tiny little things
Here
like,
I am, I've got HIV and I'm really ill and I can't sleep.
Everybody hates me.
Yeah, exactly. So it just got worse and worse and worse. But anyway, my consultants said just try and persevere. It should stabilise, and but yeah, it never did. And then it started affecting my kidneys quite badly. So they've moved me on to something else. It was just like I was like reborn. It was absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
It is. It's just I always feel quite. I don't know. Proud is the word, but just be so thankful that number one we've got the NHS here, and you always feel like you pop. I go every 6 months now. It's about the same for you.
Yeah, every 6 months.
At the beginning of diagnosis, it was every 3 months until your viral load comes down and is stabilised. But you pop in and it's almost like you're visiting a friend. It's how you do? Oh, I'm fine. How are you? And you're asking them how they are.
I love my consultant. She's brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant. She's from Iran. She's called Dr. Monet. She's so cute.
But they're so you're so good. So I'm really thankful for that. But also the fact nowadays there's so many different meds out there, aren't there? It's incredible. And the thing is, I suppose with meds, like you'll know, is that when one person is not suitable for any one of those. I know when I had my when I had the diagnosis and they do another blood test on you, they said there are certain medications we won't put you on because your blood has revealed that they won't be as effective. And we know, don't we, that if you don't take your meds, then basically your immune system, or your HIV rather, starts to push it to one side, doesn't it?
It starts reasserting itself.
It does. It sort of.
It can also mutate as well.
The mutation, isn't it? Yeah. And then therefore you can't take that drug over because it'll never be effective. And he says you've inherited that from the person who you contracted HIV from.
Right.
So there are certain drugs that we won't be going close to. But he said there's loads more, and you think. Really? They show you these booklets, and it's like a menu for a huge restaurant.
They look nice. I'll have some of those actually. Those lime green ones, they look cool.
I know, there's the colours, isn't it? You think it's actually quite nice to laugh at the fact that there's colours for HIV meds. Like you just like, can I have a cocktail of these? But certainly when I started, I had 2 tablets in the morning and 1 at night.
Yeah. And
initially I didn't find it a problem, and then I know there's a few people who do find, taking so many drugs a problem.
Yeah.
And now I'm on 1 a day.
That's good.
On a day.
I'm 1 a day.
Yeah, you're looking after the convent cat there, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's just come into.
I might be gay, but
We've got the convent cat at the same time joining in with us.
Yeah.
So what was the question?
So the question was, how's it changed your life?
Well, it has.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It does change your life.
Does.
It does change your life.
But yeah, part of it's you changing your life, isn't it?
Did you? I don't know about you. Well, maybe. Did you do what I did and just think, right, I've got another chance to do what I want to do and live my life? Did it give you a renewed sense of purpose? It did me. It made me go for Mr. UK.
Oh,
Mr.
right.
UK. And if I had
And you won it.
and I won it, and it set this whole kind of path in my life. It just kind of, I just embarked on this entire path because I just suddenly thought, you never know when your time's up. You never know when your time's up, you know. And for me, because it wasn't liver cancer, which is serious, it was HIV and treatable. I suddenly felt really, really profoundly lucky. And I should say that it was HIV and it was 2015, not 1985. You know, it's I'm so lucky, you know, and I never forget actually how lucky I feel. And you know, it motivates me.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, it's just when you said 1985. I was talking to a friend the other night, and his partner, I think it was probably back in the mid 80s, got pneumonia like I did because he was HIV, and there's nothing they could do.
No.
There was, I think, the beginnings of HIV and medications back then,
but they were pretty brutal, I think.
They
were just
poisonous.
Kind of, they were just kind of, you know, just coshes basically, just to treat the symptoms.
Yeah.
But you know, and
they couldn't. They gave me Septrin for pneumonia,
Right.
and they gave him Septrin. But the trouble is with him was the Septrin would get rid of the pneumonia, but then it would just come back again because his viral load was huge. There's nothing they could do, and he died with really because of pneumonia. And I was talking to my friend the other night, and I said, you know, if Joe was alive today, well, it sounds a bit weird this, but if Joe was alive today, he'd stay alive.
Well, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So if, and that's not that long ago, the 80s.
I mean, you know, particularly in the leather scene, in the fetish scene, there's, you know, where sex is such a dominant part of the culture. You know, it was decimated. I mean, I know that you know, gay culture was, and, you know, the community was decimated generally, but I think it hit particularly hard in the fetish and kink scene. And there's a lot of the guys who are, you know, in their 60s now, who lived through it all, and you know, they are visibly traumatized by that experience and the friends and the people that they love that they've lost. You know, so I never forget how profoundly lucky I am to have HIV in 2018.
Yeah.
You know, I am really lucky.
And living with it, and
but also, I mean, I don't know about you, but I get hyper-analysed by my consultant. It's like, you know, I get absolutely everything checked, you know, down to the finest detail. It's like I'm probably the healthiest I've ever been in my life.
I always think, oh my God, I feel so special because they're doing all these blood tests every time.
Yeah.
You know, they can tell me, you know, what I had for breakfast 3 weeks ago, almost, in a way. And
exactly. They keep on top of everything. So
everything.
It's great. We are really, really, really super lucky.
Hooked and protected, aren't we?
Yeah, we really are. Yeah, we are. Right, come on, lass. Last question.
Right, last question. And it is high-tech graphics here. What advice would you give others?
Well, I think in your case, always match your eyeshadow to your shoes and not your handbag.
And I think your leather needs re-oiling, doesn't it?
It really does, actually.
It's creaking like mad.
Yeah, I need a boy. Anyway.
The thing is with advice, and we tell this to you as well, and that is, we're not experts in terms of giving advice per se. There's George House Trust, if you are already HIV positive, who've got lots and lots of services. That's it. We need the Northwest, obviously we're Manchester based, so we'll be giving you advice on that basis. There's the LGBT Foundation, if you need sort of like safer sex advice. And also they have loads and loads of services as well. There's Albert Kennedy Trust if you are a younger person who wants advice as well. Lots and lots of other ones as well, which we will list down here. You can point as well. No, not underneath the screen here. And also on the Sisters website as well, the manchestersisters.org. But from a more personal perspective, I think the advice, what would you give?
Well, I mean, you can, like you say, only speak from your own experience, but I think the advice would be know your status, really.
Yeah.
I think that is super, super important. And, you know, we've shared our stories and, you know, we're not perfect. We didn't do everything we were supposed to do. We kind of buried our head in the sand and went, la, 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 for various reasons.
If I don't know, I don't have it.
Yeah, exactly.
Wrong.
But, you know, I just dread to think that people I could have put at risk, and, you know, it's just not worth it, really. It's just not worth it.
For yourself.
For yourself, you know, you've got to really take responsibility for yourself and your behaviour and everything. You know, you've got to know about it, and you've got to be able to do the right thing by others. You know, I think that's what I know it's scary, and I know it's a scary thing to do.
But it won't go away just by ignoring.
Exactly, you've got to face up to it.
They do, you know, so many reports, don't they, say that knowing your status helps you to look after yourself and others to help you, but also it's just better all in all, isn't it, to know where do I stand in all this? You know, where am I in the big picture? And you'll know.
Yeah.
And it's not, honestly, it can appear scary. I totally agree. Both of us, I think, would agree on that. But once you've had the test and you've found out whether you're negative or positive, you look back and go, flipping it, that actually, where I am now is not scary. I'm not scared.
It's scarier not knowing.
It's scarier not knowing.
Yeah, because you kind of, you know, it's just this whole horrible big kind of cloud over you all the time.
Yes.
You know, it's better to know, and it's better to be able to move forward from that point one way or the other. You know, if you're negative, then great, protect it. You know,
yeah,
look after yourself
and educate.
Yeah. And if you're positive, look after yourself, and you're undetectable, right? I'm
undetectable, and we know
I'm undetectable too.
Undetectable equals
untransmittable.
You equals you.
It certainly does, and we're positive about being positive. We've got loads of these. We can keep going for ages.
The number of t-shirts that we've got. Fill the wardrobe.
Yeah. Partial to a t-shirt.
We love a t-shirt. Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for watching our little chit chat here on Upfront. Now, we've already said this. These are our personal ramblings and personal opinions. We don't profess to be professionals. If you do need help in any way whatsoever, or even, you know, just want to talk to people, there are people out there that can help you. And you should use that. You should really use it. And that's across the world. That's not just Manchester. If you unsure about wanting to talk to somebody professional because it might seem a step too far, then certainly the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, you know, we always have a shoulder that you can sort of lean on and chat to us. We're always there for you. We'll always look out for you. And it is the same for, you know, the leather community as well. We're always around. You can always come and say hello. You can always take us to one side. Our arms are big. We give good cuddles, don't we?
Yeah, we do actually. Yeah. Good cuddle action.
Yeah. I'm talking to which, thank you very much for joining us. My name's Sister Bang Bang.
And I'm Joe King.
And here's the cuddle.
Oh. Yeah.